prepare for the largest ever drop-off in livestock herds. That means dramatically low prices for beef in the short term, and then much higher prices later on. And back in the Midwest drought now burning pig farmers also. Then we have drought expected to drive up costs of milk, cheese, and officials pray for rain. Then we've got no respite for U.S. crops. Kentucky corn hit hardest. Next we've got corn production slash. Soybeans next shoe to drop, ? Going across to England. United Kingdom wheat exports tumble as stocks hit historical low. World grain price surge, triggering defaults. Then we've got livestock and ethanol producers fight over who gets the grain. Well, I'm sorry, but I just found out a few months ago myself that when the ethanol producers are finished with the corn, the mash that's left over is more nutritious, and the cows like it better than the plain old corn. In fact, the cattle ranchers competitively bid on the mash left over from making ethanol, so I don't know what the deal is there. Next headline, going over to India. As U.S. drought spreads to India, will the black swan be deep fried? And last but not least, bird flu cases may jeopardize Mexico egg exports. Without further ado, we do have patiently waiting in the green room our friend Ann Morrison. Ann is a scientist. Ann is an engineer. She is a proprietor of the excellent website homeland-defense4u.com, which is linked on my links page at thelibertyman.com. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, John. Well, you sent out quite an email yesterday. And,
I did.
Do you want to say anything about that and maybe promote your show for next Wednesday?
Well, yes. The email I sent out talks about the event that's going to be, we believe will be happening. At least that's what I'm reporting from my 4 different independent sources. August 17th, it appears that Nibiru may be making its closest passage into our solar system, and then on September 26th, its closest passage as it goes back out. 4 independent sources, all verifying this information. And this coming Wednesday, the 25th, I will have Mike Harris. Mike is the talk show host here on Republic Broadcasting that follows my show Monday through Friday. And we'll be talking about these matters. Mike is in touch with 2 of these sources, and I'm in touch with 2 also. And between the 2 of us, we're going to have an interesting 1-hour discussion on Wednesday the 25th. So just kind of mark on your calendar and stand by. You're going to knock your socks off.
Okay, when you say it's closest coming into the solar system, that doesn't mean that it's going to actually enter the solar system. Is that right?
No, it is. It's already in our solar system. It'll make its closest passage to Earth, is what I was attempting to say. Its closest passage to Earth as it enters the solar system on the 17th of August, and its closest passage to Earth as it leaves the solar system on the 26th of September.
But it doesn't not cross the orbit of the Earth, does it?
I don't know how close it comes to the actual orbit of Earth. That's knowledge I don't have. Professor McCann refers to action at a distance.
Yes.
And we see this every day, and we all observe it, especially those who live on the ocean. Our moon is what, 1/10 the size of Earth, Ann, more or less?
Oh, I guess, yeah. It's pretty small.
Oh, it's fairly small, and it's 250,000 miles away. And that small rock, 250,000 miles away, makes all the oceans on the planet go up for 12 hours, and all the oceans on the planet go down for 12 hours. It's called the tide. And that's action at a distance from a fairly small rock, a fairly good distance away. The 10th planet is not 1/10 the size of Earth. It's 3 to 5 times the size of Earth. And it could be 1,000,000 miles away and have a dramatic impact. It could be several million miles away and have a dramatic impact. It has a far larger iron-nickel core than we do. So its effects of gravity and electrical energy is going to be far greater than its size would indicate. So that's basically a synopsis of the email I sent out, and Tim Spencer may be posting it on his website. I haven't talked to Tim yet, but it's I'm acting as a reporter here, an investigative reporter. I'm not advocating that people do anything except read this and make their observation and educate themselves and do what they think they need to be doing.
Well, as another example of action at a distance, the sun sent off a flare on the backside. So it was not, when I say the backside, that means the backside of the sun to the Earth. So it was not expected to influence the Earth, but it does. And the reason it does is because the magnetic lines of force between what they call the interplanetary magnetic force curves. And that curve has brought a scale of S1, a solar storm of level 1, into our atmosphere. And we are currently experiencing, well, I call it dust on the video that comes down from our satellites. Just noise, it's pixelated noise. And they say that the astronauts will not be affected, nor will our geosynchronous satellites. But at the same time, it's bringing protons. Now, we're talking magnetic lines of force are sweeping the protons that were shot off the backside of the sun and are bringing them around to hit the Earth in what they call a glancing blow. So we're very familiar with action at a distance, and the fact, the other thing that I didn't notice, and I was wondering, this Nibiru, this red dwarf that's coming into our solar, that is in our solar system, and then will be leaving it, will be traveling with a
companions. Companions.
I don't know what to call
a debris, or maybe more accurately, a debris field.
A debris field, clutter. And what happens is, as it travels through the universe, now it's a galaxy. Let's say it goes through the galaxy. It collects rocks and other bodies. Sort
of like a huge vacuum sweeper.
Kind of, because it has a gravitational pull.
Right.
And they are already expecting a near Earth encounter of a what they're calling an asteroid that may be one of the debris objects that are around this red dwarf.
Right. And did you know that here in my county, the next county west of you, actually 2 counties west of you, Crawford County, there's a meteor crater in Crawford County, Missouri, 13 miles in diameter.
Well, it's not very well advertised.
No, it's kept. In fact, once I found this out, I started looking. Most of us are aware of the meteor crater down in Arizona. It's an old Route 66 tourist attraction. I was there as a child. And there's a string of these large craters in almost a straight line right across the United States, with this one in Crawford County being one of them.
So what would that be, about 38 degrees latitude?
Yes, pretty close, maybe slightly less, yeah.
Yeah, I've been worried because I noticed that the last meteor shower to fall fell in the Colorado Rockies and may have been implicated in some of those fires up there, or the ones in Utah. And that seemed a little far north to me. And but of course we know about Tunguska, Russia, and that was very far north.
Right.
So we can't expect, in our grade school, in our elementary education, let's put it that way, in the minds that we came out of public school with, everything falls vertically.
Right.
And there are no what do you want to call there are no complex lines involved.
Right.
We're talking about things that are going to be happening to us in our lifetime that are being that we have to generalize. We have to think about them not as straight up and down or left and right or that way. We have to think of them as coming in wherever the lines of force take them. And that means that even far north we could be hit by a near-Earth object such as an asteroid. Now, this asteroid that's coming in is about 2/3 the size of a football field. It's a piece of rock as far as I know. I don't know if they've characterized it other than that. And on the Torino scale, it's at a 4. Now that means that when it hits, and where it hits, it will cause regional destruction.
Right.
The distance between the Earth and this near-Earth object, this asteroid, has been calculated, and the NASA people are following it and recalculating its orbit constantly, and this is all posted up at spaceweather.com. And you can go in there and look at the orbit, and you will see, as you can, one of the animations they have is that you can move this animation forward in time. And if you move forward in time, you can see the distance, calculated distance, that is extrapolated, calculated distance, get down to 0 and then actually become negative on February 16th. Now, I think that this probably is part of the debris field from this red dwarf.
It may very well be. It may very well be, Ann.
And I want to caution people about 2 things. One is keep an eye on this asteroid and find out. I mean, by the time it gets here, they'll know where it's going to land.
Right.
If it hits on the ground, on the Earth, there will be mass devastation the size of the country of Luxembourg. This 2012 DA-14 will be coming into the ecliptic of our solar system, and it's been circulating around for 3 years. They've known about it for 3 years. It did not come from the asteroid belt. It probably was. I mean, I'm just going to say probably because I don't know, but then they haven't said. But it might be a clutter from this red dwarf that is going to cause some problems for us soon. I mean, we're probably already in the window of trouble. I mean,
there's no probably about it. These Earth changes that I talk about every morning are directly related to Nibiru, Planet X, Wormwood. Go ahead.
So people have to understand that even though that Nibiru is not going to hit us directly, it can still affect us. And the other thing I want people to know is that this 2012 DA-14 near-Earth object is probably not the only object that will be coming in with Nibiru and may be captured by our sun's gravitational field and then circle the solar system and potentially crash into Earth. And this one is not all that big. I mean, well, 2/3 of a football field is pretty big, and it's big enough to cause regional damage. If it falls on the ground, it will destroy an area the size of the country of Luxembourg in Europe.
Right.
And that would be a disaster. That would be a tragedy. Hopefully, we will know exactly where it's going to hit before it hits, and we will be able to evacuate people to a safe distance. However, if it falls into the ocean, you may say, oh, well, that's a relief. That is not a relief. One thing that they didn't do in Deep Impact, that's a movie about an asteroid that hits in the ocean, they did show the tidal wave, and we expect a tidal wave from a asteroid impact in the ocean, because it will displace water. Now, the other way that water gets displaced in an ocean is if an earthquake slips down. So if there's an up and down motion during an earthquake, and that's what happened over in Japan. However, they did not discuss the fact that there is so much energy in these objects when they hit that they toss a lot of water vapor into the air. And in the case of this particular asteroid, this 2012 DA-14, it will have a regional impact in that there will be enough water vapor pushed into the air that in that region, so you could say like the North Pacific region or the North Atlantic region, that there would be enough water vapor passed into the air that it will start raining. and it will rain constantly. In fact, it might rain for a year. So we
Really?
have, yes, and so we would have flooding, and of course, because there's so much water vapor in the air, we would have no crops. It would be called an impact winter. That is a year without summer.
Really? And something I did want to cover, a news thing, it's a massive tragedy. It happened about 6 hours ago or so. Aurora, Colorado, there was a midnight opening of the new Batman movie, and some nutcase armed himself with some firearms and murdered 14 people and wounded about 50 others or so inside the theater.
Yes, I saw that on the news, and it's truly a tragedy. And I was going to ask you, in fact, about that.
Okay, well, we have a caller here, and we got Werner in Canada. Good morning, Werner.
Werner, hi.
Yeah, good morning. What I try to bring attention to with those chemtrails and the dispersal of those metal particulates, they completely rearrange the energy field of the planet.
Well, the magnetic field has been, I'm not going to say chaotic, but it's been unusual. The magnetic North Pole right now is moving very fast back towards its geographical north location. It started out over the boundary between Alaska and British Columbia, or the extension of British Columbia, Canada, which are where it had been for 500 years. And we were used to it being there, and we had magnetic deviations, charts and booklets that we had to help with our navigation and compasses. Well, it's moving, and it's moving very fast geologically. Anything you can...
Well, in regard to the changing of the magnetic north, I remember their older maps. The compass, the deviation was somewhere around 19 degrees. The magnetic north from the geographical north.
Right.
And then the last few years, when I come across, I think it's somewhere around 23 degrees.
Right.
The magnetic north of the geographical north. But what I was calling up, it wasn't so much about the magnetic pole shift. It was more about the ion exchange between the ionosphere and here us at ground level.
Well, what I'm saying is that those particles are going to line themselves with the magnetic lines of force. And if
what I mean, the ion exchange, and I remember there in southern Germany, in the Alpine region, they have something they call the föhn. When the wind comes over the Alps, and I think you probably have, St. Catherine wind, and when it comes off the high plateaus, or in France, I think they call it the Mistral, and where there are increased negative ions in the air, and that stresses the human nervous system. And I remember having read years ago, like in southern Germany, whenever the föhn is at the hospitals, they refrain from doing any kind of a critical surgery because the outcome is very much endangered. The positive outcome is very much endangered under those conditions.
Yeah, we have what's called a Chinook wind. Comes off of the Rocky Mountains on the east side because the air is falling. And as it falls, it compresses. And when a vapor compresses, when air compresses, it heats up. Now,
well, I don't think it's so much about the compression of the air as it is different ionization, from positive to negative ionization of the air.
Okay, let me finish my thought here.
Yeah.
When a high pressure system sets itself up, especially in that region where the air is already falling, in a high pressure system, the air falls from the top of the high to the bottom. It's just the opposite of a low pressure system. A low pressure system, the air moves upward, and we can see that in tornadoes, and so that we're familiar with low pressure systems. We're not as familiar with high pressure systems because we don't see the effect. We feel it. The air gets warmer. We say, oh, a Chinook wind is blowing. But what that does is, what's happening now because of the slowdown in the jet stream is that these highs are stacking. So we have a low-level high on top, and then we have a middle-level high, and we have a high-level high, which is at jet stream level, 30,000 feet. And they just align, and there's nothing to tear them apart. They don't move independently. They move as a single high. And what that does is it allows those ions that are up in the stratosphere to fall. So not only do we have a warming of air, but we also do have higher electron density.
Yeah, and different ionization, and that interferes with the chemical, electrical processes in our, in all biological functions.
Yes, and we've had a Bermuda high, which has now moved into the southeast, and we also have a monsoon high, which is set up over Arizona and Utah, and the monsoon high is bringing water in from the Pacific and the Sea of Cortez into Colorado.
And please continue. We got about 4 minutes to wrap it up here.
The air is so dry over the Midwest, and that the water in the rivers is evaporating. I mean, not only is the water evaporating out of the ground is turning very hard, that the transpiration, whereby the plants exchange water vapor for carbon dioxide, they are not putting water vapor into the air. And if you look at your trees, their leaves are drooping. I mean, they just can't keep up. There's going to be a lot of tree damage. Well, just as you might expect, the water level in the lakes, like the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Ontario, Huron, and Erie, and in the great rivers, the Mississippi, the Missouri, the Illinois, all the great rivers, is being evaporated. Now, and the Corps of Engineers has closed the river the Mississippi River to barge traffic at the state of Mississippi, because the water is so low in the Mississippi at this point that the barges can't get. It's not safe. They just end up on sandbars. Now, another thing that's happening, of course, is that sea levels are rising. The Gulf of Mexico, of course, the water in the Gulf of Mexico is very hot. If you look at the Navy maps, you'll see that it's very hot. Hot water expands. And so it's slowing down the flow of the Mississippi. And the Mississippi is not rising, it's evaporating. So this is a very, very serious situation for our economy. Up here near to St. Louis, what the Corps of Engineers did was they dredged up the sand, but instead of putting it on the banks of the river, they just dredged up sandbars. And so now even pleasure boats have trouble navigating the Mississippi River.
Really?
Yes. Well, they showed pictures of that on the local news. And, of course, the marina operators are complaining. It doesn't look like the Corps of Engineers can do anything. They can't drain any more water. The big lakes are evaporating. This is a very serious situation. I heard on nightly news last night, Brian Williams said they expect it to last, the drought to last until at least Halloween.
Well, that will devastate our heartland when it comes to growing grain and cattle and hogs and all the things that we do with agriculture here in the middle of the country.
Yes, and it also, right. But to me, the big thing is the loss of water from the rivers. And now they did get rain up around Chicago. The jet stream is going across the top of the country, the north part of the country, and they do have flooding in the northern Mississippi up in Michigan and Wisconsin. But it doesn't make it any further south than that.
Right, it's not enough to make up the difference, is it?
There's not enough to make up the difference. So this is a very unusual situation. I urge people to take care of themselves, take care of their families, be prepared.
Okay, Ann, thank you very much. We'll talk later today. That's it today, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for the week. You all be safe out there. Buy lots of ammunition. Never give up your guns. For those of you behind enemy lines, the code words for today are the Ford will be black. The Ford will be black. Be safe, and God bless America.
And that was the Liberty Man report, and that was from July 20th, 2012. I thought that was important for you to hear that. And there was 71,694, and this is Bo Knows Entertainment. That's his channel. Alrighty then. I'll go back here. I'll put that out for you to see. Well, no, that's good enough. There's also some things on the side to say Ellen and Nibiru and the 3 days of darkness. That might be one of the reasons why that might happen. Alrighty. You have a wonderful evening.